etc. That anti-social media mentality held true until the tail end of the COVID-19 pandemic, which also had the band considering a name change because they didn't consider the possibility of an actual plague ravaging the planet in their lifetimes.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Audiophiles. My name's John, his name is Andy. Lost in a riddle that Saturday night, far away on the other side. He was caught in the middle of a desperate fight, and she couldn't find how to push through. More on that later. But first, we have a track to listen to. Andy, what do you got?
I have a track for you today. The track is called Keep It Up, and the band is called Plague Vendor. Have you ever heard of Plague Vendor?
No, I just immediately think of Plague Doctor and the mask,
Yeah, exactly.
and then I think of a shadowy figure on a remote bridge in Venice, and and then I'm gone. So no, nothing to do with that. Okay.
Yeah. You're in the clear there. No correlation. So, Plague Vendor.
If I see a midget in a red anorak, then I'm fine.
Yeah, so please go off and give Plague Vendors Keep It Up a listen, and come back and let me know your thoughts.
Will do. So yeah, interesting start. Yeah, that sort of insistent hi-hat, and a nice sort of laggy, I call it, sort of bass line. Sounded good, and I think we got. I feeling that sort of drum beat coming in was electronic. It sounded synthesized, sort of synthesized snare beats, and then got some other sort of synthesized noises coming in as well. I think it's supposed to be rhythmic. Really nice sort of muted clipped guitar, and then a second guitar or whatever on top, sort of just riffing embellishments. That's nice. Then the man started singing. He's got one of those sort of slightly lazy drawling sort of voices, and it's all reminding me a little bit of Spoon, or early Spoon anyway. They sort of really sort out those sort of rhythmic natures of their songs, played with how they would then develop them. Because it all drops out for the verse, and he was mentioning lightning and thunder and rain, and I think he had a touch of wind as well, poor chap. And then it kind of dropped, and the guitars came in. It was just like at the exact moment I expected them to. It sounded a little bit thin, to be honest with you, on the verse, just having that electronic beat like that, and him singing. So it was nice to have the guitars back in. I hope they continue it. See how it goes.
The city is haunted with flashlights.
I'll be honest with you. I'm a little bit not disappointed, but I'm a bit unsatisfied with this. Um, because there's stuff there, and you can just tell when they should have pushed the button and gone for it, and they haven't. And it's almost like they're sort of laying back and chilling out, putting this groove in, which is all fine and dandy. But it's almost like, oh, isn't this really cool? You know, it verges on a bit of this sort of hipsterish or posturing. And I don't think they're anywhere near as good at this as aforementioned band from Texas, who didn't always hit the mark with their stuff as well. I have to say, their early stuff, and when they did, it was fantastic. And this just doesn't quite get it going. When the guitars come back in, even the clip stuff, it sounds great. And then just didn't expect it to go again. It just drops out again. Now that might be their shtick, and that might be what they're going for. This sort of, low key groove, and that's fine. It doesn't really grip me. On first listen, as someone who's not a fan, they're not pulling me in at all. They're rather just saying, "No, you come to us." I haven't quite made that trip yet. That's what I'm getting, anyway.
It all. Can I keep it up? Can I keep it running all around my bed? Gone so long, yeah. Running all around my brain. Bed gone so long, yeah. Running all around my brain. Bed gone so long, yeah. Running all around my brain. Bed
This bit's much more successful.
long, yeah. Running all around my.
Yeah, that's better.
Can I keep it up? Can I keep it running all around my? Can I keep it up? Can I keep it running all around my brain? Can I keep it up? Can I keep it running all around my brain? Can I keep it up? Can I keep it running all around my? Can I keep it up? Can I keep it all?
One to a bit more towards the end, actually. When there was a bit more to warm towards. Actually, when the guitars came back in the first time, and this bit towards the end, there was a bit of different texture to the guitars as well. The sort of long strumming chords as well as that other bit, and it kind of. And I think this is just recency bias that I've been listening to quite a lot of Berlin Trilogy Bowie, and it kind of some of the guitar kind of reminded me of that a little bit, which probably warmed me to them even more because of that. So yeah, they hit that sort of that groove point, and I, have no problem with repetition. And he was just doing the same old lines about "Can I keep it up?" and running around his noggin. And I've no problem with that at all. And I think if you hit a sweet spot, you should ride it as long as you can in a song. Yeah, I have no problem with that. So yeah, just not quite there for me. It got better, but yeah, I thought there's something, and I'm not a musician, so I can't tell them what to do, but I just think it wasn't enough. There's stuff there. There's definitely stuff there that's interesting, but I think they were trying something, and for me, it didn't quite 100% pay off. But that's me. Let's find out more about Plague of Endor. Let's go back and chop it up with Andy.
All right, so you are back. Plague free, I hope. What did you think of Keep It Up by Plague Vendor?
So, this starts with an incessant beat on the hi-hats and a grumbling appendix of a bass line before a very electronic sounding main drum beat enters. Is it man or machine? Who can tell? to sort of like, notch up my inkling on this, we get further synthetic sounds as sort of stamping on the track like potato prints on a nursery wall. A muted guitar throws out this clipped rhythm, while a second guitar, I think, elucidates with a very simple riff over the top. Really quite a nice sound, actually. And quite post-punky, whatever you want to call it, but it's there, that indie kind of sound. The singer begins the first verse, and there's trouble afoot in the weather department. I hear mentions of lightning, thunder, and rain before a case of trapped wind carries him off. I might not be 100% on the details there. Most of the instruments actually drop out for this verse, leaving behind that tinny beat and that sort of electric sounds, synthetic sounds backing up the singer's quite drawling delivery. It's an okay voice, but it's got that sort of inbuilt laziness to it. Sound. Back come the guitars to fill out the sound, and I kind of expected this almost, to happen. And then I thought it would continue, but no. The next verse we drop back down to that sort of thin sound again, and here is where I started to take a little bit of issue with this song. As he's going into the second verse, I'm getting musically, it feels a bit sort of. It's hard to put this without sounding too detrimental. I really don't want to be, because bear with me on this, because it gets better. But it's almost a little bit hipsterish. Like they lay down a very simple groove, and it started to remind me very much of early Spoon. But the track kind of lives or dies on how much you think that basic beat and vocals engage. They don't move the musical elements around as skillfully as the aforementioned Texan group. And I think perhaps the lyrics may pull the listener in, but I'm not the best candidate for getting a lot of the first listen as usual, and this is no difference here. So it comes to it, and the guitars make a welcome return in the next section. We get the repeated lines, been gone so long, running all around my brain. And it drops down for him to question if he can keep it up on, or keep it up, or keep it on again. And then we turn to another repeated section of the same previous stuff, being gone so long around my brain. And again, that Spoon feeling really returns to me at that point. Back come the guitars in again with a really nice riff, which is, I think, slightly different from earlier. And we get that laid-back groove. And I think at this point, for me, it's finally hitting that mark, which I think they thought they were hitting earlier, where you're getting to a point where it does hit that really nice groove, and you can just keep riding it. And the singer backs this up with the two previous questions sort of crisscrossing and overlapping about keeping it up and stuff running around his noggin or whatever. And as you know me, I am not averse to repetition. Or as Marky Smith says, it's not repetition, it's precision. But yeah, I don't mind that at all. So I've got no issue with that. And the fact I think they get to a point at that point where they do ride it, and I do enjoy it. I've got no problem at all with that whatsoever. I'm just really relieved that the wind is no longer troubling him. So yeah, and then it kind of finishes to the end. And I must admit, I mean, the last half of the song, it's not a very long song. The last half of the song is repetition of those earlier sort of songs, and I don't know how that fits into a narrative or whatever, so I could only go on the music that I heard. I felt that the early verses, you could, if I'm being critical, could have a feel of almost posturing, which is a charge that early Spoon had from their critics as well. And I think the success of this with the listener, and not just me, but any listener, is how much they buy into it. And they get to that point, that verse, and they think, yeah, this is really cool. I'm enjoying this. And for me, I was just a little bit unsatisfied at that point in the song. It didn't do enough. It's quite a low-key mood piece or atmosphere. They're painting a scenario, which is designed to be admired, and rather than pulling the listener in, I felt it was sort of sit there going, "Hey, aren't we good? You know, you come to me if you want more," sort of thing. That's the feeling the interaction I got from it. I probably totally wrong, but that's just whatever to me. However, the latter half, the latter third, probably, I really did enjoy. I think it got to that point, to that
Yeah,
bit. So that's why I was a little bit, because it's definitely there, all the
yeah,
bits, but I just didn't think they quite did enough, especially in the first two thirds. So I
okay.
was quite prepared to be grumpy about this, and then they changed my mind at the end, and I did enjoy the latter bit when they got it right for me. Now,
Yeah.
what they intended and what their fans, think or whatever, they're probably this is one of their best songs and they love it and whatever. I'm not totally fine with that, but I have to give you my feedback.
Yeah, 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 no, no, and I appreciate it. And it's all about, you know, some of this rests on me too, as far as picking the song that perhaps would be best catered for your ears, or at least a first listen in general. And they do have some other stuff from earlier, in their sort of career as a band, that may have been. Not may is quite different than this. I mean, as we've talked about with almost every band, the sound and changes and grows and evolves over albums and years. And this is definitely something that is more recent compared to some of their earlier stuff. So yeah, go on.
But you picked this, and
Yeah,
clearly you like this
I do like this
much
song.
more than I did on first listen.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this is terrible or I didn't like it, but do you see the sort of Spoon? Because you're a fan of Spoon, the same as me.
Huge
So
fan
do
of
you see the
Spoon.
Spoon
In as far as
comparisons?
like the groove riding is
Yeah, yeah.
concerned, yeah, absolutely. There is a correlation between those two. Um, but I would say it's harder for me to hone in on that because like I know the rest of
You
their
know the
stuff.
whole lot. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
of
yeah,
course, of
and
course.
you're focused on this one song, whereas I'm thinking of the bands and not a song
Yeah,
to a
yeah.
band, like you're like sort of you're doing, which is totally understandable. It's all about perspective and vantage points, and you know, harboring information that you have from years of listening to a band and all that different stuff. But
And,
as I put
yeah.
myself in your shoes, I totally see where you're coming from with that. Absolutely.
And fitted shirts is very different from, underdog, So
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Two great songs to juxtapose against one another, too, from the aforementioned
Eh,
Texan.
enough of Spoon. Sorry.
Yeah. Can there ever be, though? But yeah, this song also is quite different from a lot of their earlier stuff. That had their earlier stuff had more of a brash sound to it, than some of this kind of like hipster, you come to me vibe that you got from the first two thirds of the track. And that's totally fine and actually kind of understandable given what you know going into this, which as it relates to this band is next to fucking nothing. So yeah, Plague Vendor. They are an American post-punk band formed in 2008 in Whittier, California. Interesting place. They consist of Brandon Blaine, vocals, Jay Rogers, guitar, Michael Perez on bass, and Luke Perrine on drums. The members grew up in the aforementioned Whittier, which is a conservative exurb, just outside of Los Angeles, but they were inspired by the punk scenes of LA. Um, the band's musical style incorporates elements of that punk that they grew up with, as well as post-punk and post-hardcore. Plague Vendor's music combines aggressive guitar riffs, driving rhythms, and anthemic choruses, creating a unique blend of punk and post-punk with modern elements. They describe their sound as graveyard groove, which is dark yet danceable. Gregory Heaney of All Music. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
The Graveyard Groove. I mean, yeah, okay. Hats off for just their own genre. But you could there's quite a few bands I could think of now you've said it. I mean, you can almost say the Cramps a Graveyard Groove.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
There are
that's
if
funny.
if you divorce the pretentiousness of applying it solely to yourself, which I don't even know if they're doing, but and you just think, oh, this is a little little name that you can apply to a certain sound or genre of music. It's completely it's aptly applied to plenty of bands out there that have that dark but danceable sound, and Graveyard Groove is a clever little name for that to
Yeah, it
describe
is.
that
I like
sound.
that.
Yeah. So Gregory Heaney of AllMusic would write of their sound: the band's sound blends the urgency of early post-punk with the reckless attitude of hardcore, creating a style that squirms with nervous energy while it refuses to sit still. Vocalist Brandon Blaine's performance is frequently highlighted for its intensity and stage presence, drawing comparisons to figures like Jim Morrison and Iggy Pop. In 2014, Plague Vendor signed with Epitaph Records and released their debut album, Free to Eat, recorded over the course of 2 weeks with producer and engineer Stuart Sykes, who had done the same with The Walkmen, Cat Power, and Modest Mouse. The album received critical acclaim for its blend of classic punk rock and modern sensibilities, earning them recognition as one of the AP's 100 Bands You Need to Know in 2014. Their sophomore album, Blood Sweat, again produced by Stuart Sykes, was released in 2016, further developing their signature sound. In 2019, they released their third album, By Night, produced by John Congleton, who had previously worked with St. Vincent and Chelsea Wolfe. This album incorporated elements of synth and electronic drums while maintaining their punk roots. So this is about when you start to see the digital stuff kind of creep into their sound, as you kind of picked up on this listen. On August 9th of 2023, the band released this single we listened to today, Keep It Up. A year later, the band would release their Rougher Than Rough EP, which features this track, Keep It Up, along with 5 other tracks. The album was made available only as an exclusive vinyl release. This is pretty much, I think this is when they've left Epitaph, and they're just like a lot of bands eventually do, just take on the production of their own music and all that stuff. So this is sort of under their umbrella rather than going to a record label or signing with another record label. In a preview of the album, HHV would release the following blurb about the band and their upcoming release. Southern California punk rock quartet Plague Vendor are back and better than ever with their latest release, Rougher Than Rough. Songs that push, pulse, sway, and groove are all derived with distinct swagger that pulls from the greats of rock and roll. This is a record not to be fucked with. Writing for Exclaim, Matt LaFin covered the band and would write, when singer Brandon Blaine is in scream mode, he channels something between the Hive's Pell Almqvist and Refuse Dennis Lixon with his frenzied wails. However, for the more low-key dynamics, he's brooding in a very Iggy Pop mold, as on the song ISUA. Comparisons to the Hives don't stop with the vocals either. Their song Chopper sounds like it might just be a cover of the Swedish band. He would go on to add, they explore a wider and darker range of influences, pulling in sounds from bands like The Damned and The Killing Joke, but with a focus on heavy rhythm. The beats are mesmerizing, pulsing with Euro disco tech-like grooves, but the guitars are jagged and unnerving, antagonized by frantic vocals. The band seems to have shifted a bit from their West Coast garage surf rock stylings to embracing some darker dance punk elements, and it suits Plague Vendor well. John Chesler of Spin Magazine followed the band for a few days back in 2023 and wrote an article about the enigmatic band who seems to go out of their way to avoid mainstream fame. And he would observe and write, drummer Luke Perrine and bassist Michael Perez forge a rhythm section that consistently lays down danceable punk hardcore rock grooves that could be mistaken for everyone from The Clash to Turnstile. More on them later. I'm going to bring some of their stuff to the channel. And Joe Rogers fills in the middle ground on guitar while adding flourishes of his own. It's an unparalleled collaboration with enough energy to turn any room into a crowd surfing dance mosh pit. Chesler would add, the band's 3 studio albums show an ascent from Dead Kennedys-esque punk, likely the only band every member listened to when forming, according to their memories, to a sound that's their own. Each album features scream-along choruses, dance-worthy grooves, and memorable timeless hooks that likely would have fit just as well during nearly any era of the rock scene since the late 1970s. So how did a live band capable of lighting any stage on fire, whose first 3 albums were released on Epitaph Records, fail to find an audience that matches their energy and ambition for a decade? Well, it's been a perfect storm of various facets. Um, for one, the band's lack of scene or genre may cap their growth when streaming algorithms recommend similar artists within the same box, leaving Plague Vendor a slightly harder act for even the most interested weirdos to stumble upon digitally. But they also didn't help themselves, as the band maintained a pretty heavy opposition to social media and self-promotion for almost their entire existence. The band felt that like social media was gimmicky and even noted that their name was inspired by what they called the bullshit plagues on our society: fast food, social media, etc. That anti-social media mentality held true until the tail end of the COVID-19 pandemic, which also had the band considering a name change because they didn't consider the possibility of an actual plague ravaging the planet in their lifetimes. Instead of filling their concertless time with Instagram posts and YouTube videos, Plague Vendor locked themselves in their bedrooms to write a new album. One that the band has been slowly dripping out via singles like Run, Rumble, and Keep It Up. But with the birth of a new album also came a new agreement. If Plague Vendor was still a band, if and when the world reopened, they'd all pitch in to improve their social media presence. These days, the band is pretty good about keeping up with their pledge of daily social media usage, and they'll need it with their renewed DIY mentality. After separating from both their record label and management, the group of friends is now back to handling nearly every aspect of the band themselves, which I alluded to earlier with the production of this latest album. So let's jump into these lyrics. Stuck myself with lightning to pass the time, called on thunder to erase my mind, brought down rain to cleanse my soul, then let the wind carry me off. Now I'm ready to roll. City is haunted with flashing lights, caviar in the limousine. You're the guest, let them treat you right. Golden champagne, pop pills, catch a thrill. When it's over, ride off and hide up in them hills. Been gone so long, been gone, yeah, running all around my brain. Been gone so long, yeah, running all around my brain. Been gone so long, yeah, running all around my brain. Been gone so long, yeah, running all around my. Can I keep it up? Can I keep it up? Can I keep it running all around my brain? Been gone for so long, yeah, running all around my brain. Been gone so long, yeah, running all around my brain. Been gone so long, yeah, running all around my brain. Been gone so long, yeah, running all around my. Can I keep it up? Can I keep it running all around my? Can I keep it up? Can I keep it running all around my brain? Can I keep it up? Can I keep it running all around my brain? Can I keep it up? Can I keep running all around my? Can I keep it up? Can I keep on? So, yeah, there you have it. Obviously, some allusions there to these this sort of class disparity, especially with the allusions to what seems very LA, this popping pills and champagne and then retreating to high on the hills when you know lascivious behavior is come to an end. Interesting stuff. I don't know the exact meaning of the song, but I do love the groove of this track, which is one of the reasons why I chose it. I never would have thought of correlating this sound with Spoon until you mention it, and now that you do, I see it. I just don't think that it's kind of indicative of their all of their discography and sound across songs and albums and such.
Well, the stuff you mentioned, you know, post-punk and post-hardcore, etc., and his wailing vocals, none of that was in this at all.
Exactly. Exactly.
Uh,
I thought that
yeah,
as I described their sound, you would be like, "Oh, so they do have this other side to them." Because yeah, a lot of what was said in that doesn't really check out with this track.
yeah,
But yeah, I probably more of a reason maybe to bring some of their earlier stuff to the channel at some point, just to give you some perspective on the growth that occurred from then to now, or now-ish, I should say.
I'd be really interested in that actually, because I mean they mentioned post-punk. Post-punk, I think, particularly West Coast of America, is means something very different to UK post-punk.
Yeah.
Because I said before, LA's version of punk is what I would call hardcore. And it's very different to UK punk, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. No, no, you're right. You're right. Because, and I would even say that
Energy, a real spot on, you know.
yeah,
Probably the most melodic of all the hardcore sort of, but much better, much easier for me to listen to than say like Black Flag or whatever, you know, which
yeah,
is hard.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's
yeah.
got Rollins as well, which is really
Yeah, I
difficult
know
to
your
listen to.
feelings on old Henry Rollins there, so that makes sense. And I think you're right. Like, even as an American, I'm not too deep in the forest to see what you mean when you listen to New York or Philly or DC and Baltimore's
Yeah.
post-punk sound compared to that of the West Coast, and how you might even be able to hold up the East Coast of America's iteration of that more easily with your
Yes.
version of that, because they're more closely related in their sound than you
Yeah.
get from that California sound, and even the Pacific Northwest. So,
Well, definitely, because the punk that precedes the post um, is that correlation between England and New York. You know, between
yeah,
London and New York, to be quite honest, and the
yeah,
two on each other. You know, so that's where it goes. It's not better or worse. It's just it sounds different, and the terminology is slightly different. So to hear what they think of being post-punk or post-hardcore would be very interesting to hear.
yeah, 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 yeah. Well, then I'll make a note of that and bring some down the line in the next, month or so, because we don't want to cram them too close together. But yeah, I think that's definitely a venture worth, checking out for sure. So, anyway,
Sorry,
thank you. Go ahead.
I was going to say, and again, the lyrics, which I struggled to pick up the first time, and as you were reading them out there, I was just getting this overall image, like you said, from LA of pill popping, and then this sort of self-doubt, paranoia creeping in. That's the overall impression I got.
Also, I think that would go with that is this feeling of you probably had strident, hard feelings about that kind of lifestyle, and now it's becoming gray because you're kind of getting pulled into it, being part of this music scene in a city like that, and you're questioning, am I becoming part of the problem here? Am I getting sucked into this? And can I keep it up, or I'm running around in my own head, kind of thing as well. So yeah, it could be either of those things, or perhaps a way to uh cover both of them in one song.
Yeah, can I keep it up, or do I retreat to Berlin? That's the question.
Oh, excellent way of sneaking that in there, John. Thank you very much
All I got to do is
for
mention Pixies now, and I'm happy. Oh,
thank you so much for giving this a listen, John. I appreciate your time, my friend. Guys out there in the listening audience, please let us know what you thought of Plague Vendor and the song Keep It Up. Obviously, with some discussion about a future listen to these guys, if you have anything in mind by them that you would suggest, I'd be inclined to check it out and maybe put it ahead of whatever I was going to go toward. But yeah, give something for John to check out in the future. And also, please like, share, and subscribe if you'd be so inclined. And if you haven't done so yet, we really do appreciate it. It helps us over here at the channel. Only costs you a few seconds of your time and not a dime. So thank you kindly. And hopefully John and I will catch all y'all in growing numbers on the next installment of the Audiophiles. We'll see you later, guys.